Hey guys, Nolar here, and back on 5-9 Gaming, and we're going to talk about something different. There was a rumor that Valve is making a Switch-like portable gaming PC, which is, whew, that's something, all right? But I'm not alone. I'm joined by Iron Kane. Say hello.
What's going on, guys?
Joined by Iz.
Hey, how's it going?
And I've got Nate with me.
Howdy, howdy.
And yeah, I've got pretty much the guys who like actually play a lot of games, not just gotchas. So they know they're feeling around, PlayStation and all that kind of stuff. How many of you guys are actually PC gamers, like play Steam and all that? I think it's just Nate, right? Oh, and
no,
it is, okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
I actually have the Switch, PlayStation, and PC.
Okay, cool. So look, I'm gonna walk you through. This is an Ars Technica article. Came out a couple days yesterday, as of this recording, and it's interesting. So as you guys know, the Switch is super popular, right? And it's just a fantastic idea of using a portable system that is also your home system. So either way you go, everything is with you, and that's pretty much is what is predominating the JP market, right? Because here in America, North America, and first world country, other like larger first world countries, we have a lot of space, right? So we have a big screen TV or a big monitor, whatever the case may be. But in Japan, space is actually very limited. So over there, the Switch is fantastic because they could take it with them wherever they go. And if they have the space to put down on a monitor or a smaller or a bigger TV, they could pop it up and there you go. And the PSP Vita was the last, right, PlayStation Portable, right? If I remember.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah,
besides
that,
the Switch, yeah.
And that died like a couple years ago, 3 years ago, I want to say.
Sony stopped
give or
making,
take.
Something like that, yeah.
Sony stopped making games for that very, very early on. It's just pretty much been like other publishers putting stuff on the Vita.
Right. So here, this is an interesting intersection because basically Nintendo's by themselves in the mobile gaming market, right? Like a dedicated a hardware system. So for Steam to potentially enter this market, and it's called as of right now SteamPal. I'm sure that name will change because that's such a terrible name. But in the code, as someone found, that SteamPal is in there and it's leaning towards something that is similar to a Switch, where you have a touchscreen control, you've got joysticks, joypads, all that stuff, just basically is similar to a Switch, but it's instead of running Windows, because every time you run Windows, you need to get a license and all that stuff, you're running Linux. And this has kind of been paving the way in the last, I think, 4 or 5 years, because Linux, Steam has been ported over to Linux the last, I want to say 3 to 4 years, and more games are being ported to Linux. So this is actually very interesting because in essence, if the SteamPal is running its own streamlined version of Linux where you could run optimized titles from Steam, that's going to be a pretty interesting, scenario. I don't know. What are your guys' first impressions of the thought of Steam entering the mobile gaming market, that is, with their own dedicated hardware? Nate, start us off.
I think I think it's a cool idea. It's a great start to something huge, but for them to have a competition with Nintendo when it comes to mobile gaming, it's going to be very difficult because Nintendo has been doing this since the 90s, early 2000s with if not earlier, with the original Game Boy. So they have a lot of experience with this, and Steam is just coming out with something like this. Now, with something like this being new for Steam, there's going to be a lot of bugs. There's going to be a lot of situations where it may not run properly. It's a great idea overall. If someone can't afford a laptop, I'd say, you know what, go for this. But you're going to find yourself probably not being able to run games like GTA or The Witcher 3 or Dragon Ball Kakarot, huge, heavy graphics and CPU required games. You're going to be able to play games probably like Fortnite or racing games, ones that aren't really CPU or GPU heavy.
Intensive,
but,
right?
Yeah. So
what are your thoughts on this?
I'm going to go deviate a little bit off of here of Nate, because the thing is, if Steam actually does this, I have a feeling that they might do something good with it, because with the Switch, where we see the Switch now, the Switch can actually run some of these AAA games with not in the dock. like like with Witcher especially. So it might actually be. I feel like it's going to be a competitor with the Switch because if all goes and says like they're going to do this, they might actually make it pretty beefy because nowadays, like if you really think about it, a lot of phones nowadays are starting to get up to that stage of how PCs are nowadays as well. Like with the latest phone that just came out with ROG, that phone can actually has like a lot of RAM and can actually do a lot of stuff, especially with graphics intensive stuff for mobile games just by itself. So I have a feeling like Steam might have something like they have hidden in like behind their bag that no one knows just yet that can actually run all these AAA games on handheld versions without having any type of trouble. So I feel like this might be a very big competitor with Nintendo, if anything.
Okay, interesting take. Iron Cane, what you got here?
Dude, I just want to see anything like in the mobile market, like besides Nintendo, just because I thought the Vita was great. Like I thought the PlayStation Vita was great. I'm still hoping that PlayStation would make a successor to the Vita at some point. I used my Vita for a long time. And it's a shame that they didn't support as long as I would have liked. And the Switch, I feel like people tend to either use it either strictly handheld, or they use it strictly as like a console material. And I feel like it's a very low percentage of the people that actually use both. Like kind of people either go one way or the other. But I would really like to see whether it be, Steam or whoever, just make more mobile systems so like Nintendo has some competition so it pushes them to innovate. Because the Switch, it's been out since like what, 2018, right? Or 2017?
Mm-hmm.
And it's had no noticeable upgrades in my opinion. And there's, rumors of there being some sort of like Switch upgrade, but it doesn't seem like that crazy. So I think with competition, it will push Nintendo to push the envelope and make a stronger, more powerful system. And if not, then they've always done other things. Or like with the Wii, the system wasn't strong, but they pushed motion stuff. So it'll push them to innovate in some way, shape, or form. So if there's competition, I think that's great, and I'm excited to see it.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. And in a market, especially in a capitalistic market here, competition is great because either prices go down or they put more innovation. So 100%, like even if this doesn't pan out the best, it's better to have it than not have it. Now, I want to move on to this next point. So I was watching some Linus Tech Tip videos, and there's this thing here called the 1X player, and it's essentially just a giant PC in a Switch form. It's got its own touchscreen, it's got Joy-Cons, direction pad, buttons, all this kind of stuff, but it's an actual PC. Like, it runs Intel, you could watch movies on it, you could write your Word document, or if you wanted to edit your videos on there, you could, I guess. But the fact is, there have been form factors like this out there in the market. Obviously, it's not competing with the likes of Nintendo, because you guys didn't hear about this. I big into tech, and I'm the one, like, I barely heard about this myself. Just based on this, like, the technology's there, the capability's there, but I'm not exactly sure if it's going to really exceed and compete with Nintendo per se. Because the first and foremost thing about Nintendo is they have first party titles. Mario, Zelda, that's what sells the stuff, right? Like the hardware can be like the hardware on the Switch is dated at this point, but people still gobble it up because the IP is there. Now, the last IP that Steam themselves created was Half-Life Alyx. That's the VR version, which they use to sell their indexes, which is great. But they haven't personally made any other first-party titles. Do you think it's imperative that Steam and Valve create more first-party titles to sell this SteamPal? What are you guys' thoughts? Let's go with Iz first.
To be completely fair, I do agree with that. Like, if Steam were to go through with this, they would need like a lot of first party stuff. Like, again, we all know Steam is known for, well, Valve is really all known for was known for Alyx, and then Half-Life. Yeah. When like I meant like Alyx first coming out like after like a long time of like a hiatus or quote unquote a hiatus for Half-Life. And then we also have like the Left 4 Dead, which was a first party for Valve and Steam, but it branched off into consoles. So having something just for this device would be very imperative because I feel like you need something to drive people, and to have an IP for just that, like, system or console is very imperative to this lifespan. Because if they were to release this without like any new thing, and there's like, hey, you could just pour all your stuff, like, all your Steam stuff into this thing, and it won't necessarily create much of a difference, because a lot of people who have like Steam have really beefy PCs or pretty decent PCs that can run all their games. So if they see this, they're like, hey, there's nothing really for this system that I can legitimately just play all these games on my PC. There's no point of me getting it. So it's really imperative that they do make something just for the system, and like a whole entire new IP that will drive those people in.
Okay. Nate.
Well, here's the thing with this. People are always going to flock to Nintendo for the games, for their, you have Mario, you have Zelda, like you have franchises of characters that are only found on Nintendo consoles. You don't, Halo on Xbox, you have God of War on PlayStation. Each company has their own signature game, signature series. Steam, however, doesn't really seem to have one that, right now at least, that is able to compete with any of those. So for them to try and push the selling point for their new, this new console, this new portable laptop or Switch or whatever it may be, they're going to have to come out with something that can really promote it, something that can really be the selling point, not just like, oh, this spec and this piece of hardware is better than the Switches. It's like, no, people are going to want to know, like, okay, I buy this. What games can I play on it? What's exclusive to this console? You don't see a person who's a fan of Halo going out and buying a PlayStation console like immediately. They're going to buy the Xbox first if they're a huge fan of Halo. So for something like this, it's like, Steam doesn't really have a huge amount of signature games at their hand at the moment. So they're going to have to come out with games and series and characters that are so signature, like Mario and Link, and be able to sell that alongside of this console. Otherwise, they're going to have to find some other way to be in competition with Nintendo for something like this, because it's definitely going to be difficult, because Nintendo has already built a huge name for themselves.
Yeah.
When you think of Steam, it's strictly PC, like computers or laptops. Like that's when people think when you mention Steam, not a console or anything like that. Because I believe Steam had a console, or Nvidia did, whatever it was, and it didn't work out so great. And so now they're coming to this point where they're bringing out something portable, which is great. But the name of Nintendo is so huge and so big that it's going to be very difficult for them to get a foot in the door for something like this, because people know that Nintendo has been doing this for years and years and years, and they probably have years and years of down the road ideas of stuff they're going to come out with. And so Steam starting up like this, it's going to be very difficult for them to be able to be successful with it, because of how Nintendo is successful with it already. So they're going to have a challenge at their hand, and they're definitely going to have to find a way to get through that challenge, most likely being exclusive video games to this console itself.
Got it. Yep, you make a good point. I mean, it's hard to compete with Nintendo in the sense that they've built 30 plus years of a name in the mobile space. So, it's going to be difficult. But Iron King, you got anything?
Yeah, no, I agree with a lot of what you guys were saying. Just that they play devil's advocate, right? Like for first party games and stuff like that, like Mario, Zelda, of course, Metroid, and all that. It doesn't always work. Like if you look at the Wii U wasn't really that successful. Of course, Nintendo does have its first party properties, but it didn't really. Well, I guess technically it did save the Wii U, because otherwise, would have flopped even worse. But it wasn't successful as the Wii and
Yep.
previous consoles. So there is, something to say about not having first party and consoles, succeeding. But with a lot of these consoles that people come out like Ouya and like the Nvidia console that Nate was mentioning, I feel like it's like these companies just like squeeze out a fart. These consoles come out and they just disappear. And you never hear about them again. Only one I keep hearing about is like Stadia, but it's just like I don't know how people feel about Stadia. To me, I'm like just shut up, please. Like I see all these commercials, and I'm just like I don't care about the Stadia. I think it's really about how these companies sell themselves, because the Switch, it could have been another Wii U situation, but I don't know if companies flock to it because of its mobile nature, of it being like a home console mobile, or if just because it was easier to develop for or what. But it was, there was talks about Nintendo completely stepping out of being a console manufacturer altogether and just being a publisher after the Wii U, because it was such a failure. So I don't think that first parties is the be all end all. I think I think if they sell the console right and they have the right message out there, that it could be successful even without first party property.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right. Wii U wasn't the most successful console. Maybe the numbers that made it decent was propped up by Mario and whatever, but it doesn't necessarily mean having Zelda will knock it out of the park in Pokemon. The last thing I wanted to bring up is, to me, the obvious reason why we haven't had a lot of handheld consoles lately, besides the Switch, it's just because of our phones and tablets. I feel like our phones and tablets are just as powerful as, our PCs these days, right? So that's, to me, a reason why we haven't seen the PSP Vita live out that long. Because if I can play the same titles on my phone, and nowadays we have cloud streaming, so with Xbox, was it Game Pass, even Steam Link, right? I could play the games that I have downloaded on Steam on my phone as long as I have a good connection. Like, does that really necessitate the need for a handheld console? The Switch is unique in the sense that it does have those first-party titles that won't be found anywhere else. So obviously, you're going to go get to play Mario Party. You're going to go get the new Switch, right? So what are your thoughts on, like, the reason why we haven't seen a lot of handhelds is because our phones and tablets and stuff like that just obfuscates them? Let us know.
Honestly, I just don't know anymore. Like, to be completely fair, it's just like with everything going on, like the video game market is rapidly changing. So at this point, anything could happen. Like, to be completely fair, it's just, I can say wholeheartedly that I'm excited, but I'm also very worrisome, because a lot of things can happen where we can say this is going to be big now, and then it just flops. So that's I don't know. It's just, for something like this, like kind of just we gotta think in the realm of things here. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Iron King, what you got?
I'm sorry, what was the question? I like zoned out for stuff.
God, you kids these days. So basically, I was just saying that the mobile market, like our phones and tablets, have kind of.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. You can stop. Yeah, I got it. Just to refresh my memory. My argument would be to that is just I feel like because I remember when they first sold the Vita, they had a thing where you could like you could spend not a couple extra bucks, like a couple $100 to get like a 4G plan with like AT&T or Verizon or something, acting kind of like a phone in a way, kind of. So my argument would be, well then Sony, make a freaking phone gaming device thing, like a phone mobile console hybrid something. I don't know, just like innovate. Like if phones are what's hot right now, use that to your advantage. Like make a phone console type of thing. I feel like would that fit in your pocket? I don't know, but it's just like I'm not making this stuff, man. Like people gotta innovate somehow, combining with
Yeah, I think you missed out on the PSP phone. I think in 20 was it like 15, 16, where
really?
you would push up the top of the screen and then it would come out with PSP D-pad and controls. Very popular phone for, I think it was just on Verizon, at least in America. But but then of course that died very, very quick. So, yeah, I mean, everyone who saw that or who had one kind of wants another one. So I'm not wrong there. That's something to consider. Nate, close us out. What do you think about phones completely obfuscating like mobile handheld gaming devices, dedicated ones, that is?
I mean, it's definitely a given that there's so many games out there that people download on their phones, but there's one difference that will definitely leave portable consoles tied with mobile phones, mainly because mobile phone games, a lot of them require internet connection.
Yes.
And if you're going on a plane, whether it be to a state over or to another country, the Wi-Fi connection on planes aren't really that great. So you're not going to be able to play your mobile phone game like how you would at home or with a cafe Wi-Fi connection or whatever. You're going to be wanting a console or a game that is offline, and you don't really find that on phones nowadays. A lot of them require online due to purchases and stuff like that. But with consoles, you don't need an online connection. You download the game, you have it on there, you can launch it and play it anytime, wherever, whether you're on a plane, on a bus, at home, whatever. But it's it's a given that definitely phones are becoming more powerful than what they were in the past. You're able to play and emulate games on there at any time. The games that you can download from the app stores are definitely getting more and more better when it comes to graphics and gameplay quality.
Mm-hmm.
But will phones completely get rid of portable devices and portable consoles in the future? Possibly, but at the moment in 2021, probably even 2-3 years down the road, I can't see that happening, considering how much online mobile phone games or just mobile phone games in general require an internet connection. Because I don't know about you guys, but I haven't really come across one that's super popular, like as popular as Dragon Ball Dokkan Battle or, Zerlane or whatever game that you play or that a lot of people play that has an offline mode. A lot of them strictly are online, which is pretty weak. It's a weakness that mobile phone games need to get away from and realize that, hey, you know what? So that way people can play it anywhere at any time, they want to. We got to implement this somehow in some way. And mobile phone games just haven't had that, just don't have it yet. And consoles do have that to where you can play online or offline. So mobile phone games, yes, they're going strong. Yes, they're strong right now. But for them to knock out portable consoles from here on out is a very, very high statement. And it's not something that will be logical within probably the next 2 to 3 years.
Cool. Hey, you're right. I mean, online connections are kind of mandatory when you're playing mobile games, right? That's kind of the feature of it. But to be fair, some desktop and console games require consistent online features for either DRM or trophies or whatever the case may be. So it's a give and take. And you're probably right. There still probably is a market out there, but is it big enough to warrant the kind of R&D it costs to make something like SteamPal or the successor to the Switch to the Switch? I don't know. It's a good question. So you guys let us know in the comments down below. What do you guys think of this whole concept of SteamPal? Again, stupid name, but it's a code name, so I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. You think this is going to be successful? Is it going to be enough to compete with Nintendo to have them innovate and produce better quality games, better quality hardware, anything like that? Let us know down in the comments below. If you guys like the video and enjoy what we do here, there's tons of stuff we do here across from gaming, gacha games, mobile games, media, TV shows, whatever you like. We just cover as much as we can here. Subscribe to us here. Hit that notification bell to let us know, or let you know when we go live with videos, and hit that like button, all that stuff. On behalf of Nate and Iron Cane and myself, thanks a lot, guys. We'll catch you all next time. We're out.